Okay, I'm going to connect to AWS account. So let's follow the step-by-step guide. This is the step 1, task 0. Log into your AWS account. I'm inside my AWS account now. Then 2, it said from the home page, search for cloud formation. So I'm going to search for cloud formation here, search cloud formation. So once it opens the cloud formation, I'm going to step 3, right? Now on the cloud formation page, this is the cloud formation page. Locate create stack. This is stack here. If you click on it, you can either click on this stack, you will see create stack here. If I open it wide, you will see there is no need of doing anything. See, create stack here, click on it. So let me go back to the doc. I hope you guys can see the 2 pages at the same time. It's not too tiny.
Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Yes, we can see it.
So you can see create stack, over it, and click with new resources standard. So when you over this, and here is the with new resources standard, click on it. But first, make sure if you look at here, I don't know if I put it there, but the first thing that you want to do, you want to make sure you are in the right region. So this is not the region, so I'm going to go out and go to the new region that I want to use. You have to be in US East 1, the North Virginia. So now I'm in North Virginia, still locate the stack, then you click on with new standard. So it takes me to this place. So if you scroll down, you will say from the create stack page. This is the create stack page. From that page, go to the specify templates. This is where it's going to ask you. It's not showing it deeply, but if I show you see this is specified. Oh, where's my mouse now? I can't find my mouse again. Where's my mouse go to? My battery dead. Oh, it's there, just hang. Second. Okay, I think the battery just check. So you see specify, come on, man. Okay, guys, give me 1 minute. Let me change this battery. 2 seconds. Who is holding my mouse? It's just misbehaving. Come on. Yeah, I think this one is better. Okay, just change the mouse. Sorry about that. So where are we? So here you say from the create stack page, go to the specify templates. So this is the page, then go to specify template. This is specify templates. When you click on this, and what does it say? It said select the upload a template file. This is upload a template file. So I'm going to select this. Then after that, click on the choose file button to browse to where you saved the CloudFormation templates and then click next. So I'm going to choose file. So it's going to take me to where I saved the file, the CloudFormation templates. My CloudFormation template is saved inside here. I put it in here. This is where I save my emoji one is here. So this is where I save my file. I'm just going to click on it. Now, it has uploaded my file. I'm going to click next. So after this, it just asks me to put my stack name. I'm going to put a stack name. I'm going to put lab sorry. Lab environment. Then I'm going to click next. And to do something. So now that I click next, it takes me to configure stack option. And here, you see it here on page, on the specified stack display page. In the state name field, type the lab environment, then click next, which we have done. Then you go to click next. So this is where we are. And when you scroll down, go to step 6, you say on the config stack options, leave all settings as default, then click next. So this is config stack option. Leave everything as default, then click next. So click next, then go to page 7 on the review and create, on the review and create. Scroll on the bottom of the page and click the acknowledgement box, then click on submit button. So this is review and create. Then scroll down, you're going to click on the acknowledgement box, then you click submit. Excuse me. It's something I quickly want to do on my system. Give me 1 second. So once you click on the acknowledgement box, then click submit. So this is everything we need to do for the CloudFormation templates. So with this, the CloudFormation templates will run. We just need to wait for it. You can click on refresh. So this refresh button will tell you the stage that it started here, and this is all what it has done so far. So when you just continue clicking on refresh, see the whole environment got deployed. So I'm just going to wait for it for some time. This might take some minutes, like I don't think maybe like 2 minutes or 3 minutes. I don't know how long the process will be, but it shouldn't take 5 minutes. If there is any error, maybe something goes wrong, it's going to see delete. It's going to roll it back. It will not complete it. But if everything is fine, you're going to see completed. And if you go back to this step-by-step guide, at the end of the whole process, this is what you should see. I'm going to enlarge this. So at the end of the whole process, this is what you should see. Create complete. Then after that, you go to the main task. That one that we did initially, the task 0, is just a setup. That is not part of the lab. So once we finish with the cloud formation, then that is when we're going to start the lab. The reason why we are deploying the cloud formation is for the cloud formation to help us set up our environment. And the cloud formation, it will create an EC2 instance. You will start from VPC. You don't need to know what VPC is now, the configuration. I know you already know what a VPC is because we did it in the cloud formation, cloud practitioner. Then after I create the VPC, it's going to set it up. Then it's going to create an EC2 instance inside the VPC for us. So the only thing we need is that EC2 instance for the lab. We need a EC2 instance for the next for one of the tasks that we are going to do. So I'm going to go back to the cloud formation template. So I'm just going to refresh and let's see. So it's still working, and you see it has created the instance profile. So for those of you that are having issue unable to connect to the instance, something must have gone wrong here. So I'm going to assess maybe after the class, if you can wait for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I'm going to see where you're having issue. But if you can also just follow the step-by-step guide, then I don't think you should have any issue if you follow the step-by-step guide. But if you still have this, if you still follow the step-by-step guide and you still have issue, just let me know, or you post it in the Telegram. Anybody that understands it can attend to you. Okay, you can see now, lab completed. So if you want to know those resources that was created, all you just need to do is go to resources, and it's going to show you all the resources that was created for you via the CloudFormation templates. So if you can see, the CloudFormation templates creates my VPC. It created a VPC for us. It created a subnet. It created a route table. It created a security group. And at the end, it created an instance. So this instance, if you click on this button here, it's going to take you to the instance that was created for you. So we are going to need this instance in one of the tasks, but the only thing you need to see now is just to make sure that the instance is running, and this is the instance here. If you want to connect to this instance, just click on it as I'm checking this box. Click on this box, then go to connect. Then click on this section manager. So this is what you should see. Just click on connect and it will connect to the box. So now that it is connected to the box, then this is everything you need to do for now. Then go back to the step-by-step guide and start with task 1. So in the task 1, you say choosing the purpose for the task 1 is to exploring and configuring the AWS Management Console. Exploring and configuring the AWS Management Console. That is the task 1. And task 1.1, which is the first one of that task 1, is said that we should choosing an AWS region. That is the task 1. That is just the only thing you have to do in that first task. So on the navigation bar, choose the region selector displayed at the top right corner of the console, and then choose the region to which you want to switch. Ensure to select the region where you deploy your lab environment. Next, so let's first do this first one. Let's first do this. So it just tells us that I'm going to put my mouse here and I'm going to make
Mr. Amy, sorry, can you check to see if someone is waiting? Someone can't join the Zoom.
Who is that?
Faith.
They can't join the Zoom?
Yeah, she said she can't join.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what
She's unable to join.
They have to log into the... Okay. One second, guys. Okay. So now, let's do this first one first. And this first one, I don't know if you guys can still see my screen. Let me minimize. I'm just going to, I'm going to be switching between the two, but I hope it doesn't create confusion for you guys. So here, the first one is just for us to make sure that we are in the region where we deploy the CloudFormation templates. So I can choose any one of the two, or you can go back from the home page. You can go back from the home page. You can start anywhere. You can log in into the AWS and anywhere you are, wherever you are, just go to this is what we want to make sure that whatever you are seeing here, make sure that it is where you deploy your CloudFormation template. That is where you switch. If you are change your region to US East 1 or US East 2, make sure you switch to that place. This is the task 1.1. That is what it is saying, nothing else. Then once you are sure of that you are where you deploy the CloudFormation template, the next task is you configure the default region. You want to configure the default region. That is what this one is saying. And for you to configure the default region, okay, I think I can open it like this. I'm just going to be switching between the two. Okay, it's better that way. So for you to configure the default region, anytime you want to configure a default region, maybe your company is not using North Virginia and you want to configure to something else, so that anytime you open your AWS account, it takes you to the region that you should be using. Then the way to configure the default region is to open the general settings page, click on the J icon from the menu bar, and click on the more user settings. So this is the open the general settings page. This is the general settings page. You want to click on this J bar. This is the J bar icon. When you click on it, you will see more user settings. You see this more user settings? Click on it. And this is the more user settings you are seeing here. When you click on that, the next thing is in the localized and default region, choose edit. So let's look for localized and default region. This is the localized and default region. Then click on edit. Then here you will select the default region that you want to use. Currently, my default region is US East 2, which is wrong. So I want to change my default region to US East 1. And I'm just going to choose this one, US East 1. Then I'm going to save the settings. So this is the task 1.1. Are we all on the same page? Do you guys understand?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay, now let's go to task 1.2. In task 1.2, what we want to do here is searching the AWS Management Console. Anything you want or any service that you want to use, you can search for them. So how do you search for them on the Management Console? This is what the task is guiding you about. So in this task, you will explore the search box on the navigation bar, which provides a unified search tools for locating AWS services and features, services documentation, and the AWS marketplace. And here is the step. The first step is navigate to the AWS Management Console. So this is where we are. You can click on this place to go to the AWS Management Console. This is the Management Console home page. Now, once you are logged into your AWS account, locate the search box located within the navigation bar at the top left of the corner, top left of the console rather. So this is the box is talking about. Then once you locate the box, the second thing is to search for S3 and type S3 into the search box. So I'm going to type S3 into the search box. So then press enter, which will generate search results related to S3. So now that I press enter, it generated results that relates to S3. So the next thing is to access the S3 console. In the search box section, locate and click on the S3 among the search results. This will redirect you to the Amazon S3 page. So this is I'm going to locate the S3 among this search, then click on this. So this will take me to the S3 console page. Now I'm in the S3 console page and you can see it's S3. So this is the S3 home page. Then that is all what this task is all about. And if you are not searching for S3, you can search for something else. So to search for something else, you can return to the AWS console home page. And to do that, to navigate back to the console home page at any point, click on the AWS logo display in the top left hand corner of the page. So you can click on this AWS page and it's going to take you back to the home page. And from there, if you want to search for any other service, just go through the same process. Let's say, for instance, I want to search for AWS Lambda. I just put my Lambda here. And it's going to bring some search results. I'm going to click on it. Then it's going to take me to the page for Lambda. And this is how you search for any service in AWS. Is that clear?
Yeah.
So,
yes.
So to go back, just click on AWS service and it takes you back to the home page and you can search for anything. If you are searching for something, maybe you are currently, let's search for one more thing. Let's say currently I'm on KMS. I search for KMS and I select KMS. If you want to search for another service, you don't need to go back to the home page. You can just put whatever you want to type here and search for it. And it's going to take you to the, let's search for CodeBridge. And it's going to take you to that page specifically. So this is the objective of task 1.2. Now let's go to task 1.3. Am I too fast?
Nope.
No.
All right,
No.
thank you. So task 1.3, add and remove favorites. So you can see how I'm searching, going back and forth. Well, this is okay when you are just starting up, but as time goes on, you want to be more faster with what you do, right? So there are things that you can do. You can set up your, let me go back to the home page. You can set up your AWS environment just like anywhere. Maybe the way you have set up your room so that everything is easy, this way you set up your kitchen. You can also set up your AWS console environment so that it's easy for you to access resources. So one way that you can set up your environment is to add some services that you always use, is to put them in favorite list. So that way you don't have to be searching for them. You just see them at a glance of an eye. So here, what I'm going to do, let's go to the task 3.3 is to add and remove favorites. So any service that you search for before, like let's say you search for S3, you can put this S3 as favorite. So just by checking this box, and you can see it now. If I go back to my home page, anywhere I am, you will see the S3 as favorite because it has already added it at the it has targets at the top here. So that way, I don't need to go inside and search for it. And that is what this task 1.3 is talking about. So let's look at the task 1.3 in details. In this task, you explore the AWS Management Console to add AWS services to your favorite list and remove added service from the favorites list. To add a service to the favorite list. So for you to add a service, this is the steps. From the AWS Management Console, choose services to open a full list of AWS service. And once you open the service, you can put in anything that you want to search inside there. And once it is there, to the left of the service name, select the star. So for instance, let's say you want to search for SQL. So to the, okay, they are actually changed to the right. In some cases, it's going to be on the left, but now it's on the right. So to the right of this service, just click on the star. And once immediately you click on the star, it appends it to the top of the page. So that way you don't have to search for it all the time. And another one that I can do is, let me go to KMS. Those are the services I use a lot. So I'm also going to just check this star and it's going to append them there. Let me look for one more, another good service I normally use, IAM. And you can now see that it has append all these services. No matter what I do, refresh, do anything you want to do, those services will be appended to the top of the page. So it's easy for you to access those services. So that is what task, what's that task? Task 1.3 is talking about. Are we all clear?
Yep.
So now let's look at, that is how to add a service to the favorite list. Now let's see how do we remove service from favorite list. Let's say you are not using the service as often before. So you can remove a service. All you just need to do, okay, let me go back there. So removing a service, remove a service from the list of favorites. On the navigation bar, choose service to open a full list of the service. Once you click, in the favorite list, deselect the star next to the name of a service you wish to remove. Just easy to do. So we're still going to search. Let's say I have all these services here. So any of these services that I want to remove, I'm just going to search for that service again. And once it shows me the service, I'm just going to uncheck the star and automatically it will remove it from the list. So let me remove this one also. I'm going to search for it. Let me see. You can see if you click on it, it's not going to take you to where you can remove it. So you have to search for it. So I'm going to search IAM. So it brings out the IAM. I'm just going to uncheck the star. And now it has removed the IAM from my list. Is that clear?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I think it's too simple. Some people are not even sitting, they are just honing they just hone their system down and they go away from the system. Let me see those people. You know, I have way of dictating those people that are just not there. Or I can say Nelson is not on the system. All right. Yeah, I can see you're not on your system. Okay, task 1.4. Creating and using widgets. So here, there are a lot of widgets in AWS. If you go back to AWS Management Console, I'm going to open this task broadly so that we can all see. All these are called different widgets. This one is a widget, this one is a widget, this one is a widget, and all of that. So this makes it easy for you to access some service on AWS, especially the service that you normally use a lot. So one way that you can do to make your system look more clean and easy to access is to add or remove some widgets. You can remove unwanted widget from your console so that your console look beautiful. You can see there's nothing on my console again. So now I can start adding the widget that I think is useful for me. And for me to do that, I can go to add widget. and start selecting those ones that I want from the list of the widget that AWS have here. So let's take a minute to look at our widget. So to add a widget, choose add plus add widgets. The add widgets window is displayed. In the add widget menu, choose the title bar at the top of the widget that you want to add, and then drag to the widget, drag the widgets on the console page. To rearrange a widget, configure the following. Choose the title bar at the top of the widget, for example, favorites, and then drag the widget to a new location on the console page. So let's see this. Let's first add. So now I've clicked add and it has displayed the widget menu bar. So now I can start dragging them. Let's say I like to read AWS blog, then I'll just drag it. And you can see when I'm dragging, it gives me some block here. When I just, you can see all this block. So I can put this one, it can take 4 blocks, or if I want, I can reduce it to 2 blocks, or even you can see to 2 blocks, and here 2 blocks. It can either be 2 or 3 or 4. I can start dragging it, but you can just arrange it anyhow you want. But I don't really need the block because it's not useful for me as at now. So I can do favorites. I can put my favorite here. So all the service that I normally use every time, I can put them in my favorite. So any service that I added as favorite is going to put them on my favorite list. So I can have them here or I have them here. But I think this place is better for me. So I'm just going to remove this. I don't need them here since it's already at the top, and that is even easy to access. One thing that I always want is the AWS help. So this is very important to me, but I don't want it at this side. I want it towards this side, so that anytime AWS send any message like schedule changes or any notification, I can easily access it. So this is okay for me, but I don't want it to be to take 4 blocks. I just want it to take 3. So that is enough for me. Then I'm going to look for another one that is kind of easy. Okay, my cost is so important, so I need cost at the top here so that I can see how much I'm spending. So this goes there. Then what about security? I also like security. I want to have a very easy glance at my security. Then I can move it. You can move it around just to rearrange your AWS screen. So it's easy that way. Then
sorry if I may ask, where do you get them from? Like where you dragging from? I see by the right hand side.
And don't you see them by the right here? Can anybody see all this one here?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm dragging for. You just click, then you drag. You hold it down with your mouse, then you drag it. So if you, okay, let me rearrange this. I think the most recent, those recent one can go up here, and my cost, let me put my cost here. I want my cost to be 2. You can rearrange it any way you want. So let me put my cost here. So the most recent and cost, they are okay there. Then security can go next, followed by health. Then trusted advisor too is good. So this is just the way for you to arrange. You can arrange this thing anyhow you want. So I think I'm okay with all of this. Latest announcement too is okay. So you can see this is what I want. So I've arranged my widget, and this is enough for me. So that is everything about how to add a widget. This just makes your work easier in real life. So that way you can easily, maybe there's a service that you normally use or you just finish using it and it's not part of your favorite, then it's going to add up here. Any service that you just used, then it's going to be piling up here. So let's go back to the widget list. So to remove a widget, all you just need to do is to click on it. Say choose the welcome to the widget. In the upper left, upper right corner of the widget, choose the widget action, ellipsis icon, then represent by the 3 dots, then choose remove. I have done this before. Just click on this, then click on remove. So I don't want to remove that. Let me remove latest. I'm going to click on this, then click on remove. So it's go away. Then if you want it back, just locate it where it's here, then bring it back. I actually like building posts. So I'm going to put this one here. They cannot take 3, so I'm going to put it here. Can take 2 building solutions. So then I can now drag it up. Okay, there. So that is all about task 1.4. So everything about task 1 is kind of easy. So we are done with our task 1. Now let's go to task 2. Am I too fast? Do you guys want me to repeat anything? Are we all on the same page?
Yeah. One more thing now, because in mine out here, I only have 3 in the right side. Yeah. So do you add it at the widget? Do
So
you
you
have
can
to
see
add
here. You see here. Can you see my mouse
with
at the bottom here?
where is it?
Hold on. Do you see this? Do you see this arrow that I'm drawing?
Okay.
Do you see this? Hey. Do you see this button here?
Yes. Thanks.
Yeah, click hard. And it's going to show them here.
Mr. Yemi, sorry, I hope this is not a dumb question. The first task 0 that we did, what
Yeah.
exactly were we trying to achieve there? To create a stack for just a lab environment?
So that we create a lab environment for you. And in task 2, we are going to use one of the resources that was created with that CloudFormation template, which is an EC2. The CloudFormation template creates an EC2 for us. So we are going to need that. We are going to use that CloudFormation template. We are going to use that EC2 in task 2.
Okay, but we're going to use the same file that you uploaded?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that file that we uploaded, there are some instructions there. And that is what we call infrastructure as code. So that file, the instruction is to create some infrastructure for us. And among the infrastructure that he created, these are all the infrastructure that he created. He created a VPC, he created subnet, he configured all of them. And the main thing that we needed, he created a role, which we are going to be discussing later today or on Saturday. Then he also created an EC2 instance. So we are going to need this. The only thing we actually need today is this EC2 instance.
Okay, sounds good. And because that's a code, that's why we did it on that CloudFormation?
Yeah.
Okay. Please, another question. Should we use the same region that you use, or how do we determine what region to use?
Use the same region, because that CloudFormation template, there's a specific region there. And that you should use that region, which is the same region that I use.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So now let's go to task 2. The task 2 now, we are creating an Amazon S3 bucket using the AWS Management Console. This is not to learn about EC2, S3. This is just for you to, we want to see how to use console to create a resources. And we also want to see how to use AWS CLI to create a resources. So the only thing you need to focus here is how to create a resources via the console. And the reason why we pick S3 is because it's one of the resources that is extremely easy to create. The focus here is not to actually learn S3, but just to learn how to use the console to create a service or a resources. So now, in this task, you create and configure. You will create and configure a new Amazon S3 bucket in the lab environment using the AWS console. The lab environment was created with the Terraform, with the CloudFormation template. So inside that, we are going to create a CloudFormation template. We are going to create an S3 bucket there. So this is the step to create the S3 bucket. From your management console, click on the service and search for S3. Then click on the S3. This will redirect you to the S3 management console page. So let's go there. So I'm going to go to the home page. I'm going to search for S3, right? And from the S3, click on it. Then this now takes me to the S3. This takes me to the S3 home page. If you use the CloudFormation, if you run that CloudFormation that I ran initially at the first, you are going to see these buckets in your account, because when you run CloudFormation, it's going to save that CloudFormation in an S3 bucket. It's going to create a bucket by default automatically for you, and it's going to store that file in the bucket, and that's why you are seeing this. So if you see this in your account, know that it is a CloudFormation that you run. If you run it, that is what created this bucket. So now that we are in the S3 bucket, so the next step is in the navigation pane on the left side, on the left-hand side of the console, choose buckets. Then choose create bucket. So we say on the left-hand side, which is the left-hand side, choose bucket. Then once it opens, then click on create bucket. So in the general configuration section, for bucket name, enter this. So I'm going to copy it. And look at this. They say you have to enter this bucket name, but because the way S3 is, no two buckets can have the same name worldwide on S3, on AWS. No two buckets can share the same name. So if you create a name called Yemi, if you create a bucket and you name it Yemi, nobody can create a bucket and name it Yemi again, because it's worldwide, it's global. So the reason why, the only way you can create a bucket that no other person can have this, the only way you can have different name is to use something that is going to be different from every other person. So here now, for this lab, this is what you're going to do. You just need to get the name of this lab. So I'm going to go under the bucket name. I'm going to put it here. So your initial, you are going to change this, your initial, to your own initial. My own initial is AA. So I'm going to change that, your initial, to my initial. Then the zip code, you are going to change this entire zip code, cancel it, and put your own zip code. So I'm going to put my own zip code, 66009. So this is my bucket name. So if you do this, no two persons, except if the person that is living in your area also in this class, and both of you share the same name, and both of you live in the same area, that's when you can both for your bucket. Then you have to use something different, but that I don't believe that can happen. All right, so I've picked a bucket name. Then you can see this is how I also gave the example here. So once that is done, select your preference, your preferred region. For this, you can select the US East one. Make sure that the region you select, make sure that it is the same region that you deploy your CloudFormation, because that is where the EC2 is created. So I'm going to select the region. This is the region here. So it's going to be US East 1. It's automatically selected for me. And then leave all other settings as default. Scroll down and click on the Create Bucket button. So I'm going to leave everything as default. I'm going to scroll down. Then I'm going to click Create Bucket. So that you can see how easy it is for me to create a bucket in AWS. So now, is that all? So you can see that is completed. So we successfully create our bucket. And congratulations, you have created a new bucket with a default configuration. So that is everything you need to do on task 2. Any question on task 2? Any question? Is Oluchi in this class?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Because I'm not seeing the video. I'm not actually looking, because if I open the video, I mean, the video is going to be blocking the screen. So that's why I'm not opening it. So that's why I can't see anybody in the class. But I can see, okay, I think I can just see your name. Let me see. Tina, why are you 2? Okay, Tina and Tina. Okay, there are 2 Tina here. Okay.
And then he, she.
I know there is a man Tina and there's a woman Tina. All right, so we are done with task 2, and that is clear. Now let's go to task 3. So now our task 3 is uploading an object into the Amazon S3 bucket using the console. Remember, the objective of this task is not for you to learn S3 or any service. It's just for you to understand how to use the console, the management console, to deploy a service or to run a service. So now we've created our S3 bucket via the console. The next agenda is to upload an object inside the bucket that we created. So in this task, you upload an object into the previously created S3 bucket using the S3 console. Save an image with the name my object.jpg on your desktop. So you are going to save, just go to your desktop, just save an image, my object.jpg. You can see my image. I've created an image. I've saved it as my object.jpg. So you to do this way. Any image, just put any image on your desktop and save as my object.jpg. So once you save the object, in the Amazon S3 console, choose the bucket you created in tasks 2. So this is the bucket I created in task 2. I'm going to select this, click on it to open, then use upload. Choose upload. The upload page is displayed. So when I click on upload, the upload page will be displayed. So once that is displayed, choose hard files. This is hard files. I'm going to click on it. Then select browse to where that image is saved. I saved the image on my desktop and it's saved with my object.jpg. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to open it. So you can see browse to and choose the my object.jpg you downloaded. Then once you save it, then just click on upload. So I'm going to go back here and you can see it is here already. I'm just going to choose upload. So now I've uploaded an object inside my bucket. And once you are done, that is everything you need to do. And congratulations, you have uploaded an object inside the Amazon S3 bucket. So now on task 4, that is task 3. We are done with task 3. So the task 4 now, this is the only thing that is going to look a little bit complex in what we are going to do today. But pay attention and you will get it. Task 4 now, creating an Amazon S3 bucket and uploading an object using the Amazon CLI. Everything that we have done on the management console, we also want to do the same thing on the AWS CLI. Remember, there are multiple ways of accessing your AWS. You can access it via the console and you can access it via the CLI. So what we want to do now is to create the bucket and upload an object via the CLI. So you still have to follow the same step by step, creating a connection to the command host, creating a connection to the command host using section manager. So here, to do that, from the Amazon Management Console, from the AWS Management Console, search for and select EC2. So I'm going to go back to the Management Console by clicking this logo. Then I'm going to search and select EC2. Search for and select EC2. So I can, because I've already added it, I can just select it from here. So now I'm on my EC2 page. So from the EC2 page, now in the EC2 console page, in the navigation pane on the left side, on the left-hand side of the console, choose instances. So here, this is the instances. I'm going to choose these instances. And you can see it here. Diagram is also here for you to see. Then locate the instance that was created in task 0 and select the checkbox at the left of it. So this is the, I'm going to locate the instance that was created for me, and this is the instance that was created with the CloudFormation template. So I'm going to click it, and once that is clicked, choose connect button. So this is my connect button. I'm going to click on this, and it takes me to the connect button, and I say choose the section manager tab. So this is the section manager tab. I'm going to click on it, then choose connect. So I'm going to click on connect. So before we go further, let me explain what we are trying to do here. When you want to deploy resources via the Management Console, you have to log into the AWS Management Console direct. But if you want to do CLI, then CLI is that you are using like a mirror to see something. You can't see, you can't actually hold that in direct, but you can use a mirror to refer to it. So the same thing we are trying to do here. We are trying to create an S3 bucket, but instead of doing it through the console, we want to do it through the CLI. And for us to do it through the CLI, we have to either log into an EC2. We have to, not even either, we have to use a terminal. We have to use a terminal to do that. And the way you can get access to terminal is either by using the terminal on your own personal laptop, or you can spin up an EC2 and use the terminal on the EC2, which is an AWS service. So the option that we pick is to choose an EC2, spin up an EC2 and use the terminal on the EC2. And this is the terminal we are seeing here. So the first process here, all the first process that are from task 4.1 is just to connect to the EC2 that we created, that we want to use to create the S3 bucket. So that is the task 4.1, just to access the instance that was created for this purpose. So the task 4.2 now, let's go to task 4.2, using the high-level S3 command with the AWS CLI. So we want to use the S3 commands with the AWS CLI. So the S3 command now is what we are going to be using to create the bucket. So instead of going to the console and start clicking like create button, clicking on the button, we are not doing that. This time around, we are going to be writing command. And this command is just a way of instructing the AWS that, hey, once we write this command, when we press enter, go and do this. So the first command in this task, you access the high-level features of Amazon S3 using AWS CLI. Review the AWS CLI documentation. This, you don't really need to worry about this before, but if I were you, if somebody is writing command, I want to know where they are getting that command from. Is it that they cram it If they cram it, okay, where can I get it so that I can cram it to? So any command that we are going to be writing in this class, they are already, we are getting them from AWS documentation. So there are multiple AWS documentation. There is one AWS documentation for maybe if you want to deploy resources via the console. If you want to deploy resources via the CLI, there is a different documentation. So for you to get the documentation for AWS CLI, all you just need to do, the service that you want to use, any service that you want to use. Let's say for now, we want to use S3. What you are going to do to get the service, just go to your Google or go to anywhere to search and do AWS S3 CLI documentation. That is all. And it's going to bring documentation for that service for you. If it is EC2, just change this S3 to EC2, AWS EC2 CLI documentation, and it's going to bring it for you. This is the CLI documentation here. Let me go back to my S3 because S3 is what we want to run this time around. S3. So there are two types of, I think this only affects S3. There are two types of S3 CLI documentation. Two types. There is one that is standard. Then there is another one that is called high level. The standard, let me go back to the, and this, let me just quickly open a notepad and let me show you the difference. If you look at my screen, the standard, if you are writing any AWS CLI, the standard will look like this, S3. It will not have anything to it. So it will now be AWS S3 something something. I'm going to show you the remaining. But the high level one, the high level one will look like this, AWS S3 API. So this is the high level and this is the standard. The difference between the two is that this is like the old version. This is a new version, and this one has more features than this. So now people prefer to use this high level. So that is just the difference, but every other thing is the same. So if you are looking for documentation, you need to specify use high level. You need to specify use high level. So now I'm going to click on use high level documentation. So now it's going to bring me to AWS high-level documentation. And if you scroll down, you can see that this is, it's actually bring it here, but this is not the one I want. So I'm going to go back. Let me look at S3 CLI documentation. Any documentation, just we see how it's. And if I were you, I will just, once we get the documentation that we want to use, I will just bookmark it, not this one. So let me try the first one here. Yeah. So let me see AWS. So this is the standard. This is the standard. You can see it's just ordinary S3. But the one I want is the one that has AWS S3 API. So I'm going to go back and maybe I'm going to specify it AWS. Yeah, here. You can see it here. So I'm going to add this API CLI documentation. So now you can see that it brings me the actual documentation now. It's not that you cannot use the first one, which is the standard, you can use it, but this one has more features than the first one. So you can now see this is the documentation. So if I were you, I will bookmark this. I put this on the Telegram. So now, this is how to run the CLI. Any service that you want to use, look at it. And let's look at it. This is easy. So any service that you want to use is CLI. Any service. The first thing that you need to look at this. You say AWS. So the service that we are currently learning is AWS. So my first thing is going to be AWS. That is the first thing you are going to put there. Then followed by the service name. Followed by the service name. So for S3 now, we're supposed to have S3 service name here. But remember, we have two types of S3. S3 CLI. We have the standard and we have the API. So if we are using the standard, we just say S3 this. If you are using the API, you just say S3 API. If it is EC2, you just add EC2 here. So class, if I want to use KMS, what is going to be after AWS?
KMS now.
KMS.
Why does it took you almost 20 years to respond?
The mouse
KMS.
anyway.
So if I want to use what other service can we use? What other service do we have in AWS? What if I want to use how come I forgot all the service?
Lambda.
Lambda, yeah.
Lambda, yeah.
If I want to use Lambda, it's going to be Lambda. If I want to use EFS, it's going to be EFS. So this is it. So now let's go back to our S3. So I'm going to use S3 what? S3 API. So if we go to S3 API, now we can see AWS S3 API. Let me quickly show you something, then we will come back here, but I don't want to leave this page. I'm going to duplicate it. So this is the old page and this is the new page. So here in this new page, I'm going to search for EFS, and let me show you something. AWS EFS CLI documentation. So you see, it showed me EFS documentation. When I click on this and open it, look at it. I have AWS EFS, right? So if I want to write EFS, I'm going to do AWS EFS. What about Lambda? I'm just going to do AWS Lambda CLI documentation. And guess what? It's going to bring Lambda for me. When I click on it, what's this? AWS Lambda. You just write it fully, AWS Lambda. You can see the pattern. Now let's do one more thing. Let's look for something that we have not even talked about in this class. Code commit. AWS code commit. Don't worry about if you don't know what code commit is, don't worry about that. But this is a service in AWS that we're going to talk about later. AWS code commit CLI documentation. So do I have Lambda there? Why is it showing me Lambda? AWS code commit documentation. You can see it's code commit. When I open this, the first one, and it's going to show me AWS code commit. So if I want to write CLI for code commit, it's still going to be the same thing. It's going to be AWS code commit. So those are the service. So the first thing you have is AWS, and the second one is what? The service. So what is going to be the third thing? All the service, they have something called API. All the service had API. You can see this is the API of code commits, available commands. These are all the commands that you can run with code commit. If you go to S3 API, these are all the available commands that you can run. Let me duplicate and get an S3 EC2. So if you search for EC2, AWS EC2. Okay, guy, help me. I want to search for EC2 documentation. What do I type?
AWS EC2.
If nobody is talk, I'm going to call somebody. Okay. Oh yeah, go ahead.
AWS EC2 documentation.
AWS EC2 documentation. Okay, thank you. AWS EC2 documentation. If I want to search for CLI, EC2 CLI documentation, what do I type?
Okay, AWS EC2 CLI commands.
CLI command.
Documentation.
Okay, CLI.
See, now I know you are in kitchen.
My work.
All right, your mind is, should I stay in the kitchen or should I be in the class? All right. So, what about code pipeline? Code pipeline. What do I type?
AWS code pipeline CLI documentation.
So this is just to teach you how to search for the documentation, and you need to learn how to search and read documentation, because either you are going to be very good in AWS or you are going to be the reverse. It depends on how much documentation you can read. Not even how much somebody can teach you, is how much documentation, how much research you can do by yourself. So you can see code commit documentation. Now we have 3 services: AWS S3, code commit, and code pipeline. Now let's look at this. If you want to type CLI for S3 is going to look like AWS S3 API. That is the second, the current standard one. If you want the previous, the standard S3 is going to be AWS. And please know the difference, because this anybody can ask about this in an interview, that what is the difference between the S3 and S3 API. If somebody has asked this before. So if I'm using S3, it's going to be this AWS S3. But if I'm using the API, it's going to be the high level is going to be AWS S3 API. If I'm using code commit, it's going to be AWS code commit. If I'm using code pipeline, it's going to be AWS code pipeline. Now, these are just the service, AWS and the service name. What about the available commands? Each one of these services has its own available commands. So if you see the available commands for S3, these are all the available commands that you can run with S3. Do you need to cram this? Absolutely no. And that is the reason why I'm showing you this documentation, because this is where you are going to be coming anytime you need any of this. And so the S3 API, the high-level API, has all of this. So how do you use this? So if you want anything you want to do in S3, you just need to come here and search for that specific thing that you want to do, and you call the command. The same thing goes to code commit. These are the all available commands that you can run with code commit. And the same thing go with code pipeline. The same thing go with EC2. The same thing go to EFS. All of them, they have their own available commands. So let's go back to the S3. So what do we want to do on S3? We want to create a bucket. So if you start looking at this command, because at first you won't know what command to run, but if you learn how to just be reading at this command, be looking at them one by one, you will see the one that sound like, okay, that makes sense to use for creating a bucket. It's going to make sense. Just the name alone will make sense to you that, okay, this can be used to create a bucket. So you don't have to cram this. Normally you can search Google, like, what is the CLI to create a bucket? What is the S3 high-level API to create a bucket? It's going to show you. But it's not going to harm you for you to actually learn how to go to the documentation and identify this. So if you look at all of these available services, if you start looking at them one by one, then one of them is going to make sense for you, like, okay, this is to create a bucket. Now let's look at this. About API, does that make like an API to create a bucket?
No.
What about the second one? Does that sound like creating a bucket?
No.
No.
Fourth one.
No.
Fourth one.
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
create buckets. Create bucket. So that you can see, even any 1 year, 5-year-old person will know, okay, this is create bucket. So this is the command that we need. So if you go down, you will see other one, delete. All these ones are not, we are not deleting bucket. Get, we are not getting anything. List, we are not listing anything. Put, we are not putting anything. So look at them. The only thing that makes sense for me for creating a bucket is create bucket. And there is no harm. If you are not sure, you can click on it to open it, and they will tell you with a description what that command is used for. And you can see here create a new S3 bucket. So this is the command that we need. And you can look at it very well. AWS also help you to arrange it. Remember, we have the first two commands here. The first two commands that we are going to run. So they are now telling us that if you want to create a bucket, just add this third command to the first two that we have. So now I'm going to copy this. Make sure you type it. If you don't want to make mistake, just copy. But if you know that you can type it, just make sure you are typing exactly what is here. Because if you type any other thing, that is a wrong command. So I'm just going to copy it, then come here and add it to my, put a space in between and add it to my API. So this now is the first three API that I need for the CLI. AWS S3 API create buckets. That is as simple as it is. Am I making sense or just disturb or just making noise? I know.
Yeah.
Somebody say you are making noise. Let me see that person. Kenneth. It's Kenneth. I can hear it clearly. So now it's that easy. Let's look at code commit. So if you want to create a code commit, the same thing happens. So if you look at all of the available service, you will see the only one that looks like create commit is what? Is this the first one? I want to create a code commit. First one, no. Second one,
No.
Third one, I mean, this one, I'm just going to be putting mouse and just tell me whether yes or no. This?
No.
This?
No.
No.
This?
Yeah.
Yes, create commit. So AWS try to make it simple. And if you are not sure, there is no harm in you putting your mouse, click on it, and read. Create a commit for a repository. That is it. I know you don't understand what a code commit is, but this is how I learn it, and this is how I understand this, and that is how I'm training you how to do it the same way. Because wait, this is the problem. If you just go to the Google and search something like code or command, let me just say command to create an S3 bucket, it's going to give you a lot of things. And if you look at somebody's code, the code that works today might not work tomorrow. The code that works today might not work tomorrow. So that is why a lot of people, when you are watching other people's video, especially those people that like to do technical things, like developer, like DevOps, if you are watching somebody's video and they are doing it and you are following them and everything is working, but if you go back there next tomorrow and you try to do exactly the same thing that the person did in the previous day and it works, and you discover that it's not working again, then you find out, oh, what is going on? The reason why it doesn't work again, because something has changed. The code that works today might not work tomorrow. Maybe there is a new version. Maybe the people that develop the code, maybe they discover that there is a bug in the code they have before. And to fix it, they have to write an update. And once they write the update, they are going to release the update, and they might block the old version so that the old version doesn't work again. But because you only know how to write the old version, then that's when you get stuck and you're saying like, oh, the code is not working for me, but it's working for other people. But the best way to get this is to actually learn, where is that person that is writing the code? Where is he getting the source from? So if you understand how you too can go to the documentation and get it, no matter anybody that creates app, I don't know how big the app is, they are going to create documentation, and that documentation is like the Bible. So that is where everything about the application is being written. So anything he wants to do, if you go to the documentation, you will be able to do it. So let's go back to our S3. Now that we have seen how to create a bucket, which is create bucket, if you scroll down, there are some flags with creating of bucket. For instance, let's put it hold on here. Let's go back to our console for 1 second. Let's pretend as if we want to create a bucket on the console. I want to show you something now. If you are creating a bucket on the console, once you click on the bucket, then you click on create bucket. This button that you click here is the same thing that you are doing here. But instead of clicking a button here, you are typing the code. You are typing the name. So once you type the name, it's equivalent to you clicking a bucket here. So when you click a bucket here, it's not that when you click the bucket, a bucket will be created automatically. You still need to fill in some parameters, like the name, like the region, like other things. The same way you are filling all of this, you can also fill that same parameter here. So how do you fill the parameter if you are writing code? So the way to fill the parameter is if you go back to the code commit, if you scroll down, you will see some synopsis. And those synopses are the, let me go to the S3. So those synopses are the parameters. Those are the parameters that you fill when you are creating the bucket directly on the console. So if you go back here to the bucket, you can see if you want to in the I'm sorry for toggling around, but that is the only way for me to explain it. Let's say if you are using the console, if you want to specify the name, you just come to this field and you type the name, lab bucket. So the question now, lab bucket. So the question now is that if we want to also specify the name with the CLI, how do we specify it? That is what those synopses are meant for. So if you look at all of these flags here, you can see that they have some dash, 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 dash. These are all the dash, dash that you can put in front of your create bucket. You can see the command is create bucket. So in front of that bucket, depends on what you want to do. You can put that dash and specify the value. So for instance now, if I want to put a name with for my bucket, it's called tagging. They don't say name, but it's called tag. So you're going to look for a tag here. Okay, here, this is my bucket. So here is not tag, it's the bucket. So dash dash bucket, I have to specify, click on this dash dash bucket, and I'm going to put dash 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 here, dash dash bucket. Then I'm going to specify the bucket name, lab bucket. And if you don't know, there's no harm in reading. So everything you are seeing here, if you scroll down, they are going to explain everything to you one by one. Everything, they are going to explain it. If you scroll down, look at it. The first one, dash dash ACL, dash dash bucket. And there is something I need to quickly point out here. Anyone that is not inside brackets, all these ones that are in bracket, they are called optionals, meaning that if you don't put them, there is no problem. Your code will still work. But anyone that is not inside the bracket, it is called required, and you must put them for your codes to work. If you do not put them, your code will not work. So the dash dash bucket, and you can see if you highlight it, dash dash bucket, if you scroll down, and this is it here, this is where they explain it, and they say it is a string. I know you may not know what a string is. It's called data type. String is a data type, is in the language you're calling programming, but what it just simply means that, hey, if you specify dash dash bucket, just the way we specify dash dash bucket here, anything that you are going to put as value for the bucket, because they say you need to specify a value, and the value is string. So what they mean is that you have to put a value like this, string. If you go and put something like a number, it will not work. If you put something like a code, something like Boolean, true or false, like this, it will not work. It has to be, then you specify the name of the bucket, maybe lab bucket. specify the name. This is what they just say string. I mean, it has to be a string. You cannot do something like this, like a bracket. It's not, this is not a string. I'm going to organize a Python class, maybe next week or upper week. So in that Python class, if you attend, you will understand different data type, and those data type that we are going to talk about is going to be the same across the board. So this data type that they are talking here is called string, and this, if you want to write a string, this is how a string look like. You put it in column, in double quotes, and you now put that text inside this double quotes. So here, if the name of my bucket is going to be lab bucket, and remember, the bucket name has to be unique worldwide. So there is tendency that somebody somewhere would have used these lab buckets as their own bucket name. So for me to recreate this, I can do my initial and I can do my zip code like this. So this is going to form the name of my bucket. So now, if you read further and you see it here, the name of the buckets to create. So anything that you see here, you can add it in front of your create bucket. So let's look for region. Look at every other thing. Then I'm going to look at region here, dash region. So what that tells me is that I can specify the region too with dash region. So when I put dash region, then I have to put a value inside it. So all this dash, what it just means is just like you are referring to a feed, to one of these feeds. You see, this feeds here is what we are referring to when we call dash region. This is the feed that we are referring to. If you call dash bucket, this is the feed we are referring to. And there are a lot of configuration that you can do with the S3. Look at this, version. So how do you specify version? Let's go to our bucket. You see, dash version. And if you look at the version, it says you should put the value in front. And if you scroll down to where it's explained what that version means, if you scroll down, let's locate the version. I can't see it. Somewhere here. This is okay here. And look at it. It says it's string. And it tells you that it displays the version of these tools. So here we have enable or disable. So any field that you can select here, guess what? You can also put it in CLI. You can also put it in CLI. So the reason why I'm showing you this and I'm spending a lot of time in it, because if you go out there, one of the things they will ask you, do you know AWS? I mean, do you know how to write infrastructure as code? This is infrastructure as code. If you understand the basic like this, there is nothing there. So all this thing is easy. It's just, you are not writing code. You are not the one writing this. It's just a matter of copy. But the only thing you need to know is where to go to copy it, and just know how to arrange it so that you don't have error. So that's why when you talk to me, when I say writing code is easy, it's easy because it is. You don't write the code, you just come here, copy it, but you just need to know how to arrange it, and so that it will give you exactly what you want. So I'm going to leave it. The only thing that it is required is the bucket, and every other thing they are optional. So I'm going to leave every other thing as we don't need it. So I have specified dash bucket, and also let me specify dash region. So for me to specify my region, because instead it is string, I'm going to use US East 1, because that is where I want to deploy my bucket. So what do I need to do now? I just need to copy all of this and go and put it in my terminal. Remember the terminal that I create? Oh, it has closed because I'm not using it. I'm just going to refresh it. So everything I just need to do is to put it on the terminal that I opened earlier, which is the EC2. So I just need to right click and paste. So this is everything I need. If I press enter here, it's going to create a bucket with this name for me.
What did I do?
Mr. Shegun, you're disturbing us. So if I just need to copy it. So everything we do now, we just press enter and automatically it's going to go and create a bucket for us. You say there's an error, the bucket name, specified bucket name is invalid. You say the bucket name that we specify is invalid, and that is true because a bucket name must always be in lowercase. You cannot put a bucket name, any of the bucket name cannot be in uppercase. So I'm just going to click my up arrow to bring back the code and then scroll to where I have uppercase. I'm going to change them to lowercase. So bucket, I'm changing it to B, and L, I'm changing it to lowercase. And that is all. I'm just going to press enter again. Say access denied when calling the bucket, access denied. Access denied, US East 1. Access denied. What can cause that? Okay, let's see. Let me run something really quick. AWS S3 API LS. Clear AWS S3 LS. You say access denied. So you say I don't have access. It's understandable because unfortunately we have not gotten to access in AWS. But I'm going to tell you one thing now. There are no two AWS service. I repeat, no two AWS service automatically have access to communicate to each other. They need access to communicate to each other. If you create an EC2 and you have an S3, for EC2 to be able to communicate to S3, they need access to do that. If you create an EFS, for EFS to communicate to an EC2, it needs an access. If you create an EC2, for EC2 to communicate to RDS, it needs an access. So there is no two services on AWS that can automatically communicate to each other without an access. But why I was not worried about access, because the CLI that we created, I mean, the CloudFormation, there is automatically, we have automatically grant access to this EC2. So that is why I was not worried about access initially. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to quickly, you don't really need to worry about this. I want to see the access that we told the EC2 to configure for the S3, I mean for the EC2, that we told the CloudFormation to configure for EC2. If you go back to our CloudFormation, let me see, do I still have the CloudFormation? The CloudFormation, let me open the page for you. CLI code commit. I'm just going to the file where we created the I just want to open that file.
Mr. Yemi, in the command that we use, since we're already doing that in the API CLI, is there a need to still put it as part of the command?
As part of the command?
Yeah, because you still copy the entire S3 API CLI, create bucket and all that.
Yeah, that has to be there.
Okay.
Hold on. Don't let me mistake. I'm going to verify, but let me open this now. I'm going to attend to your question specifically, but I just quickly want to show you something. So this CLI, I mean, this is the template that we ran that creates the EC2. So if you scroll down, you don't need to worry about this template, but just you just need to see something. If you scroll down here, instance profile, it created a row, and that row, it gives, I want to see the permission that the row give. Okay, you can see the only permission that the row give is SNS. So don't worry, on Saturday we'll understand what this is. So it doesn't give permission for the EC2 to be able to talk to S3, and that is why it rejects our action. So for me to quickly do that, for the EC2 to be able to talk to S3 now, I need to go to that row. Don't worry, this is our next class. And when we get here, you will understand what this means. So he created an instance profile. So I just need this instance profile. Please, if you want to do this, you also need to watch this. Go to the IAM, go to row, search for instance profile. And when you get to the instance profile, these are the permissions that the EC2 have currently. This is the only permission that the EC2 have. So I want to add another permission. And the permission that I'm adding this time around is going to be S3 full access, meaning that I'm giving the EC2 the permission to do something on the S3, and that is all. So I can now go back to my to my page. If I run that code again, that code that we ran initially, it won't give us any error. Now, just give it some minutes. It's still giving us error while I create bucket. AWS API, S3 API, create bucket, -- bucket name, -- yeah, we're not supposed to have any error. Okay, I'm going back to the policy because the error is giving is policy error. Okay, let me get something right. The reason what I want to get, I just want to make sure that I'm actually modifying the right. I just want to make sure that I'm modifying the right policy instance profile. Then I just want to make sure I'm modifying the right policy instance profile row. Last 70 days. So this is different. So it's not the same thing. So because this was 70 days ago and it's not the one I just created. So I just need to make sure instance profile row. Let me see, manage ARN. Okay, I can actually find out from the EC2. So let me go to the EC2 and let me go to the EC2. From the EC2, I will see the profile that it is using. You don't need to really worry about, just watch the video, do what I'm doing, and I'm going to explain it to you. So from this EC2 now, let me go to the EC2 that I connected to. This is the EC2. If you open this EC2, it will tell us the row that it is using currently. So if you scroll down under, let me see, security, under security, this is the row name. So it's different from what I was checking instance profile, but it is not instance profile. It is called lab environment, my row, they give it a random name. So if I click this, it's going to open to that row. So you see the same thing we need to do. You can see this is 16 minutes ago. So I just need, and you can see it here. The only row that we have currently is this. So I need to add more permission so that, and the permission that I need to add is S3 full access so that EC2 will be able to communicate to S3, and that is all. So sorry about the initial one that I went to modify. That is not the right one. And you can see how I was able to trace the right row that was assigned to the EC2. So the EC2, the row is actually what is giving the EC2 the permission to be able to talk to S3. And initially, the row only has limited permission, which is fine. But now that we want to do more things, then we need to grant more permission. And that is why I went to modify the row. So here now, if you go back to our, what's it called? Escape my mind. If you go back to our terminal, if you do clear, it's going to clear what we have on the screen. Then if I run the same code again, how I'm putting the code back is by pressing your up arrow key. the up arrow key. If you press the up arrow key, you're going to get back to the initial code. So now I'm on the code. If I press enter now, we shouldn't have the error that we are having before. And you can see now it has actually created the bucket. It has actually created the bucket. If you have not run that code, if you have not deployed the Terraform script, so if you have not deployed the CloudFormation template, if you don't want to have this same issue that we have, you can just come to the Terraform template and just remove this, just leave it on asterisk. Just remove the --sm, just leave it on asterisk. Then when you run this Terraform template, then you will not have any error that we are having, that it was denying us. But this process is not the best practice, because what we are doing here, we are giving the EC2 all the access, unlimited access, which is wrong. But when we do this, it's only giving the EC2 the SMS access, which is the best, which is what we learned about the principle of least privilege. Give something the minimum access they need to do something, and when they need more, give them more. And that is what we did. We are only granting the S3, the EC2. We are only granting it SMS access, because that is the only thing that it needs at that time. And when we want to use the EC2 to deploy a service to an S3, so the EC2 need more permission. So that is why we go to the console and add more permission, and that is why we had the S3 full access. So I'm going to go out from here, come back here. So when we deploy this, you can see now it doesn't give us any error. It just says location / then the bucket name. So if you go to the console now, go to the S3 console and go and click on bucket, we are going to see that we have a new bucket. That this bucket was created from the CLI. This bucket was created from the CLI. Why? If I refresh this, you see we have 3 buckets now. This was when we run our Terraform, when we run our CloudFormation. This is when the bucket was created. This bucket was created from the console, and now this bucket was created from the CLI. So now that we created a bucket from the CLI, how do we put an object inside the bucket? The same process that we use to create a bucket, we can use the same process to add an object inside the bucket. But here we are not going to be clicking on the button. Let's say we want to do it from the console. We can click here, open the bucket, and go to upload. But we don't want to do it this way. So if you go back to our file, somebody was asking me a question the other time that I said I'm going to answer. Is that Tina or Joy? Somebody was asking me a question now that I said should go down. Who is that person?
It was Tina.
Tina, are you still there? Okay, we'll go back to her later. So now
I was the one I was asking about the command.
Which command is that?
The AWS S3 API, create bucket, whatever. But I think I saw that it has to be there because the code kind of worked.
Yeah, it has to be there. Just copy this command. I put them here so that I can explain it. We don't have to put them here. You can actually type them directly in the terminal. So, but I just put them there so that I can explain it better. So the next one now, we want to upload an object inside a bucket. So how do we do that? The first thing, let's go and locate our S3 CLI documentation. So let's go back to this is our documentation, right? But now we want to put an object. So it's not going to be create again. So I can go back to the service page. This is the service page. This is AWS page. If you click on this AWS page, it's going to show you all the AWS API on CLI. These are all the AWS CLI API. So any service that you want to run, you can locate them here. So, but the one I need is S3. So I'm going to go to S3. Oh, S3 is going to be, it's alphabetically arranged. So S3, S3, you can see the S3, which is standard, and you can see the S3 high level. So I'm clicking this S3 high level. Then it's going to take me to the S3. Before I do that, let me send you the page so that you can bookmark it for anybody that wants to bookmark it. So I'm going to put it on the Telegram. So now I'm going to click on the S3 API. So it has now shown S3 API. So the first thing I want to do is AWS. What is the next thing? Yeah, guys. What's the next command? AWS followed by
S3 API.
API.
So we have the AWS, which is the platform. We have the service. Now let's go and look for the next one, which is the command that we want to run. So this time around, we want to put an object inside a bucket. So, and if you hear the name, put object inside a bucket, can that be copy object? No. Can that be create object? No. Can that be delete object? No. Get object? No. List? No. Put. You can see these are all put. So what we want to put is that we want to put object. So if you start looking at them one by one, the only one that resemble put object is this. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
So I'm going to click on it to open and read. If it is not the one, then what we just need to do is to go back and start looking. So here you can see it say add an object to a bucket. And so I'm going to scroll down so that I can see other commands that I can run on. We'll call them flags that we can run, flags that we can run with it. So the first command is put object. So I'm going to copy this put object. If you know that you cannot type it without mistake, just copy. So I'm going to put it here. So we have AWS S3 API put object. So let me go back to the documentation. Is there anything that I have that is required among all of the command, all of the available synopsis? Is there anyone that is required? Is there anyone that is required? I need response.
Yes.
What are those ones that are required?
Dash bucket.
Okay, one dash bucket. So dash bucket. So remember that dash bucket is what? The bucket name. Let me just put bucket name. We're going to come back and fill it later. Okay. Then which other one is required? Any other one?
Key. Needs the key.
The key.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, anyone that is not inside the bracket is required, and you must put it for your code to run. So I'm going to also put the key. So I'm going to give one space. Then we have dash key. Is there any other one that is required apart from those two?
No.
No. But can you add any other one? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
You can add as many as you want. But if you don't need them, don't put, because they are optional. But if there is any reason that you need them, you must put them there. And there will be reason why you should get some. Because guess what? When you are running, when you get a job now, if you are working in real life scenario, there are some policy that your company will put in place for you to be able for them to make sure that everything you are doing is secure. So if your company say, if you are creating a bucket, the bucket must have a encryption key. then you should have a flag that will help you to put an encryption key, which is all of this one that you are seeing here, server-side encryption. But since they are optional and there's nothing that required us to put them here, then we are going to do without them. But there is one that I always like to put, is this one here, region. And the reason why I have to put the region is because I want to specifically specify which region I want to create the bucket. For instance, let's say I want to create the bucket in Ohio, which is US is 2. If I do not specify the region, it's going to use default. And my default is what? US is 1. So this bucket, I don't want it in US East. I mean, it's actually in US East 1, so I'm going to leave it there, but it's always good to create it. So I'm going to also put that region. I hope you guys understand this, because it's not as more, I mean, it's not more than this. It's not more than this. This is all you need to learn. Just ability to learn where to get the information. That is all you need. And that is why it can become so good. So here now, I'm going to say AWS S3 API puts object, then those one that has dash have to put value in front of them. So how do I know the value to put? If you go back to the documentation, it's going to tell you the kind of value that it is. If you go to dash bucket, if you go down and you see where the bucket is, and it's going to tell you what it means. Say the bucket name. Are we using buckets or put objects? Okay, this put objects. Okay, yeah, that's bucket. Okay, say the bucket name where you want to put the object. So what is our bucket name? Remember, we already created the bucket, right? So we just need to go back to our console and copy that bucket name. Yes or no?
Yes.
Hey, the response is so slow. But it's yes. So I'm going to put the bucket name here, remove this name, and put my bucket name. Because it's a string, I'm going to put them in column. Then I'm going to give this a space. Always make sure there's space. If there's no space, you are going to get error. One space.
You've removed the L.
Is that I should remove the what? Oh, I removed the L. Okay, thank you. So now the key name. Remember, when you are doing cloud practitioner, I explain what key is, but don't worry if you don't understand. The key name is the name of the file. Is the name of the file. So our file that we want to put now, okay, let's quickly go to our console, because currently on this console, we don't have any file. So let's quickly create a file. There is a command to create a file. I know if you have not done Linux before, Linux, please go and learn it. We have a lot of videos for Linux. But because this is a Linux machine, not a window that we can right-click and save a file. So to create a file here, I'm just going to use command to create a file. This is not an AWS command. This is Linux operating system command. If you are using Linux operating system, this is the command that you can use to create a file. So I'm just going to say touch, and the name of the file that I want to create, I'm going to call it my object.jpg. And if I press enter, oh, you say permission deny. Okay, don't worry. I'm going to do sudo. Then I've created the bucket. So if I do ls, oh, clear. If I do
ls-lrt.
ls. Actually, what I want to do, okay, that will just, if I do ls, so the reason why the ls is bringing a lot of things, because there is a lot of things in this user file. So I can do ls. The name of the file is what?
Object.
Object. No, I think it's my my object. Yeah, ls my object. So you can see that it's listing out my object, meaning that the object is stored in this file. So now we have an object. This is just like you're storing an object on your console. But because we are not using our personal system now, we are using a virtual system. And this is a Linux operating system. So the only way for us to save an object on the CLI, on the system, is by using touch to create the object. So I have an object now. This command that I ran is not AWS command, it's Linux operating system command. So now what I need to do, let's go back to our command. AWS S3 API put object, then this is the bucket that we want to put our object, and the key, which is the object name. The object name we have here is called my object dot jpg. Then we have dash region.
It means the dash, my dash.
Okay, my dash object. Okay, thank you. Yeah. So dash region, and the region name is US East 1. And don't forget this one too, you need this. Although I don't think that it's actually required, but since it's a string, it's always good to put it there. So I'm going to copy all of them, and I'm going to just paste here. And if I press enter, it's going to take this object that we created here. It's going to go take it and go and put it inside our S3 bucket. So I'm going to press enter, and you can see it doesn't give me any error. So now let's go to our S3 bucket and let's see if this object is now inside it. So I'm going to go back to S3, click on the bucket, open the bucket. This is the bucket. And now look at it. Inside the bucket, we have our object. And look at it. It's just saved here now. So this is how to put an object in your S3 bucket via the console. So the purpose for this training this night is not to learn about S3, is not to learn about EC2, is not to learn about code commit, is to learn about how do you create an object or interact with an object via the console and via the CLI. If you do not understand anything that we do today, but please, if it is only one thing that you're going to understand this night, let it be how to search for AWS CLI and how you can actually locate a service and how to see all the available command under that service and how you can see a specific value or synopsis that you can run with that command, because this, we might not touch this thing again till after some months. Even you might not even touch it in AWS cloud solution, but we are going to do more of it in the security. And also we're actually going to do more of it in the solution too, because I actually want you to be able to go out there and say you have knowledge of infrastructure as code. So please, it's not hard. You just need to consistently practicing this. It took me years to understand it too, but it's because I don't have somebody to explain it to me the way I'm explaining it to you now. I have to learn it on my own. So now this is all you need. It's just a step by step. If you like, take a paper or a jotter or anything, write the step out and paste it somewhere. So anytime you need it, follow the process. It's as easy as that. So I'm going to stop the class here. And
I have a question though.
All right,
I don't know if I'm like far away from what we're talking about, but is this how like applications get deployed in the cloud? Like when you have an EC2 and you have a bucket inside the EC2, and then if you want to deploy the app, is that how it works?
This, whatever we do here this night, this is how it's done in real life. If you are deploying application via the console, this is how it's done in real life. If you are deploying application via CLI, this is how it's done in real life. But we are still going to take it one more step in real life scenario, because guess what? What we did here is we are running command one by one. We run command one by one. This is fine. You will see people doing this. But if you want to take your game one more step, you will now need how to put multiple commands together. Like you should be able to put all these commands, like create buckets. I'm going to copy them. Create bucket. I'm going to put it here. So this is going to create a bucket. Then when you create the bucket, remember the other command that we ran, we do touch my buckets, my objects, right? .jpg. Then after that, what other things do? We put the object inside a bucket. So in real life, you should be able to run all of them together as one instead of running them one by one. So when you put all of them together at once, this is what they call scripting. If somebody asks you, do you know how to write bash scripting? What I just write here is called, it's more, there are some other little things that we need to do, but guess what? This is bash scripting, because if you run all of this together, that means when you are running multiple commands together, that is what they call bash scripting. So if you know how to run AWS CLI and somebody asks you, do you know how to run bash scripting? Yeah, you can easily say like 70% yes. Because if you want to run this as bash scripting, the only thing that we just need to add is to add Sheban. I think I'm right. Those of you that know how to add Sheban, I think this is right. So you just need to add this to it. And if you go to my CLI here, you see, this is what I do every day. Look at all these commands that you are seeing here. Not specifically this. Let me quickly show you one. This is a solution that I'm giving to people in real life. And this company I'm working for is not a small company. This is a company of thousands of users, thousands of employees. And this, like example of this we are seeing here, these are the command that I actually write in real life. You can see this here is just me. I am getting a name of a key that I want to use. And here I'm enabling AWS. You can see AWS EC2. So if you want to see this, just go to AWS CLI, AWS EC2 CLI, and you're going to see AWS EC2. And when you get to the EC2, these are part of the available service. And this service here is it will enable default encryption. This, what I'm giving you here, is a solution I provide, because most of the solution I used to write at work, I always write it on my own personal system, test it on my system. When it works, then I replicate it in my dev environment at work, then give it in production.
Okay,
so that,
thank you.
So that when I'm not working for the company again, I still have all the code to myself. So, and you can see now, if I want to write all of this one by one, I'm going to write this, then press enter, then that will run, then I will come back, write this. But guess what? You can put multiple commands together in one single script. That is one. Look at here. This is a very bigger one. But you don't need to worry yourself about this. It's one by one, line by line. So learn the first step, then, and you can see AWS EC2 describe region, AWS KMS create key, AWS KMS create alias. Then this is AWS modify EBS. So this is what we do on the job. So anything we learn this night, you're going to get them at the job as well.
Thank you.
All right. Any other question? I know some people are already having a day. Don't worry.
Mr. Emi, this is just us in the cloud already. So
yes,
like trying to migrate from on-prem to the cloud. Is this the same pattern or
migration
service?
to the cloud? So migration is different. So there are some, we are going to get to a time, I think we have some migration service that we are going to cover, but migration is different. Migration looks like this. I think we are all good with this before I close this chapter. Are we all good with what we learned tonight? Any question before I answer migration? Because migration is like we are diverting away from what we are doing right now.
Is it recording?
Yeah.
Is it recording?
Yeah, it's recorded. So migration is like you have, okay, let me annotate this. There are multiple ways for migration. So this is like migration. You have your on-prem service and you want to send them into cloud environment. You want to send whatever you have in dev to cloud. So there are multiple ways. But the first thing you need to do, there are some infrastructure on-prem that you are using to run the application. And inside the infrastructure, there is your application. So on the cloud, what we are doing right now, the first thing when we create an S3 bucket is like you creating the infrastructure. So infrastructure is different from the application. So there are some code that if you are working in the cloud, you might be on the infrastructure level that you were just the one creating infrastructure. You may not deal with the application because most of the time it's developers that deal with the application. But that doesn't mean that you will not help the developer to deploy their application. But most of the time, even the developer will deploy their own application. And another department that actually work with the developer to deploy application is DevOps. They will create the pipeline that everything is going to go from when the developer push their code, then the DevOps will create all the pipeline that will take the code and deploy it. But yours as a solution architect is not to deploy the application. Yours as security engineer is not to deploy the application. But if you want to understand how it works, fine. So you have application inside an infrastructure. You have already created the infrastructure, you created the VPC, you created the EC2 instance. This is our EC2 instance. So there are multiple ways of migrating. You can just copy this file, the file that is running your application. You can just copy it, maybe in any means, and just upload them here. That is migration. Another method, you can use a tools that you are going to install some agent on the physical, on the on-prem server, and the agents too will be installed in the cloud. So the two agents will be sending signal to each other. Once they approve each other to send signal, all the file that is here will automatically transfer to this place. So if you go to if you go to this, let me quickly show you that. If you go to this, there is one inside this place, there is one cloud, goes here. There is one migration that we did. I think it's batch 3 or something like that. There's one migration that we did, if I'm not mistakenly. Let me clean this screen. If you go to the course, there's one migration there, course. So you can, if you want to quickly learn about migration, you can see it. You see up to 3 cloud migration here. We actually create cloud migration that we create a replica of a server on-prem and we deploy the resources to the cloud. And you can watch this video. I'm going to be adding more to this cloud migration. I think we have cloud migration in this current course too. So this is what I want to discuss with you this night. And let's see, do we cover all the labs? If you don't cover the lab, you have to go back and cover it. So we covered the first one. You can see, and you can follow this. It's still going to be the same thing. And here, I use the standard, but in the real life, I use the other one. So you can see there are multiple ways of doing the same thing. Here, I use the standard, but in what I show you, in the one that we did, I use the high level. So both of them will still work. Then we created the bucket. Then after we created the bucket, we created a file, touch file. Then after that, after we created the touch file, we upload what we have. The file that we created, we uploaded it inside the bucket, and that is the end. So at the end of the day, congratulations, you have successfully explored and interact with the AWS console. You have created resources using the AWS Management Console. You have explored and interact with the AWS CLI, and you have also created resources using the AWS CLI. I think you have done a good job today, and you can clap for yourself for attending the class. Honestly, go back and watch this video, because this is one of the best videos that I have done this year, by explaining this to you. I was not even planning of explaining it this far tonight, but congratulations to you. All right, any question for me?
Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
Mr. Yemi, quick one. The touch command isn't working for me, and I don't know why. It says
The what?
permission denied. The touch,
Okay. The
yeah,
touch command.
it's not working. Yeah,
It said what does it say?
permission denied.
Okay, put sudo in front. Sudo touch then the key.
Okay, no problem. Because I already disconnected my stop my instance so that they won't charge me too much. So I'll go back to it. Thank you.
Sudo, just put sudo in front of it. And the reason why it's not permitting you is, I guess, the SSM does not have permission. That is why. So
Okay.
I think that is all. I'm going to close this. I'm going to stop the recording before we talk about other things. Stop recording.